Um, I would like to say hi to everybody, and as I don't know from where you are watching us, I would like to say warmly good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, maybe good night to you as you prefer to watch our conference presentation. My name is Şakire Erbay Çetinkaya, and I am working at the Department of English Language and Literature at Karadeniz Technical University in Trabzon, which is a northeastern city in Turkey. And today we are going to present our research about the research-related writing experiences and attitudes of undergraduate students via emergency remote supervision. We were two researchers, and here the first researcher is Merve Ayna, and she was the active researcher in the field because she was an undergraduate candidate and she was a fourth grade student who was supposed to write her undergraduate thesis to graduate from our department, and she successfully completed this process, which becomes a conference presentation here. Her undergraduate thesis title was that investigating BA candidates' attitudes and experiences about BA graduation thesis via emergency remote teaching, and she conducted her research and wrote her research report and defended it in front of the faculty staff successfully in 2021. Okay, then who am I? I was her academic supervisor, and I guided the whole process and helped her both emotionally and academically during the process. Besides, we together analyzed the data and interpreted our findings. Today, I will present what we did in this undergraduate thesis research. Let me first start with a concise background without suffocating you with a lot of theoretical information. As you know, academic writing is a challenging process. It's not a piece of cake because you have to be systematic here and you have to follow certain steps like you plan, you write, you edit, and you review. You see, we can't say that academic writing is a piece of cake. It's difficult. It requires, dedication. And it becomes quite difficult, particularly for undergraduate students who are supposed to conduct an undergraduate research and write their thesis. Undergraduate thesis here should be understood as the research conducted by an undergraduate student based upon an hypothesis in order to contribute to academy and put forward an idea. In other words, to produce new knowledge. If that particular student do not produce new knowledge, then there is no real research here and there is no real thesis here. So here, the process is challenging, as I said before, because here the student, the candidate, is supposed to follow a scientific research process, and there are certain steps here which are the same with the research steps that we researchers follow. And plus, in addition to this systematic research process, they have to know academic writing conventions. These are particularly difficult for students, especially English as a foreign language students, because English is not their mother tongue, and as most of them do not have writing experience, not only in English, but also in their native language, it becomes, I don't know, a real torture for them to write such a long text. Besides, they are supposed to make their findings public, I mean, write their BA thesis, and besides, present it in front of faculty staff. You see, undergraduate thesis is not a piece of cake because of that difficult process. And they have various challenges. They have various academic and emotional challenges because they have some other responsibilities. And when these responsibilities, difficulties related to their private life combined with these academic challenges, the process turns into a real, I don't know, a rocket science for them. And this is the situation actually in face-to-face education. And now, because of COVID-19 pandemic, the world has been experiencing emergency remote teaching, and this year mostly blended, or let's say hybrid teaching. But here in emergency remote teaching, what should we understand? This is a short-term and abrupt solution on education during COVID-19 pandemic, because it's a temporary shift, because when we hope that there is no pandemic, we'll go to our classes and offer face-to-face courses. So because of that, we call it as temporary shift. So it's a temporary shift of instructional delivery to an alternate delivery mode due to the crisis circumstances. And nowadays, this is COVID-19. And because of that, there are school closures, and we have to compensate for these education losses in a way. And here, emergency remote teaching comes up. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of emergency remote education? Well, the existing literature has documented that it is advantageous because it helps us not to fall behind academically. I mean, we offer our classes in a different mode, and plus it offers convenience for both teachers and students. They could have education whenever and wherever they want. On the other hand, the related literature has documented several disadvantages, or let's say weaknesses, of this sudden education mode shift. There is education inequality. Why? Because all the students may not have the required equipment, such as personal computers, and they may not have internet connection, success or effective internet connection. So, or they may not have the necessary infrastructure requirement. So because of these, they have an education inequality. They are not equal. Students are not equal. And here also we need to update teachers technologically, because we were not used to offering our classes in via this mode until now, although some of us have offered distance education courses. Besides, in addition to technological assistance, we need to help our students emotionally, because COVID-19 is a big paradigm, is a big crisis for them. Plus, they suddenly went to their houses and the schools were closed. So these sudden changes most probably created emotional burden, stress, anxiety, demotivation in students. And And World Health Organization has documented that too much exposure to such technological equipments, or let's say computer or mobile devices during these courses, cause serious health problems, eye problems, back problems, and psychological problems. Besides, that new education mode creates heavy workload for both institutions and teaching staff. We are to transfer our teaching content into the technologically friendly one and maybe devise new courses. And plus, the institutions should set up their infrastructure and help their staff technologically and blah, blah. Besides, students, evaluating and assessing student performance via emergency remote educations in distance education is difficult and unreliable, because cheating and plagiarism become really easy, and it becomes really difficult for the faculty staff members to check it and guide students. So these are both positive and negative aspects of emergency remote education. What does the earlier research tells about the experiences, research writing experiences of students? Well, when we conducted a detailed literature review, we found that there are a few previous investigations on undergraduate research-related writing, and the existing ones were not about undergraduate writing, but about MA and PhD writing. So here there is a gap to be filled. We found in our context in Turkey, we found a related study which belongs to me and one of my other students. And here in 2017, we conducted a study, but of course, then we didn't have, luckily, COVID-19, and we were offering classes and BA supervision in face-to-face situation, classes or offices. So here we investigated the experiences and attitudes of 12th, 4th grade English majoring students at the same institution, and with semi-structured interviews. And we found 9 sub-themes. And these were, the students had, these are difficulty areas for students. They had difficulty regarding their thesis topic. I put the most frequent ones here. They listed several difficulties, but here about thesis topic, the most frequent one was determining a topic. 8 students out of 12 had this problem. Another problem was related to sources, and they had inadequate sources. They had difficulty in accessing adequate and high quality sources. Another sub-theme was methodology, particularly analyzing data was difficult for them. In literature review, it was difficult for them to read critically and write their literature review. That's not a simple summary, but an evaluation and synthesis. And another difficulty area was language. Particularly, they were having difficulty in choosing the right words to put their findings into a written form, into a thesis. And they had writing and style related problems, particularly referencing, avoiding plagiarism was a real challenge for them. And that's really interesting. There were personal issues also. Particularly managing time was difficult for students. Here in thesis writing, you have to follow a systematic process, and it requires you to manage your time wisely. And if you have difficulty with that, then the process turns into a real torture for you. And some had advisor-related problems. They couldn't have enough feedback from their supervisors and naturally cannot follow the process. And And there were some other problems. 9 of them said that they had some other responsibilities, such as coping with pedagogical formation. They want to be teacher and thesis writing, coursework, training, all together at the same semester, and such a busy, such a hectic schedule made it difficult for them to focus on their thesis. But this study was about BA thesis writing in face-to-face classes. So the current research could be seen that, the current research could be said original, because we couldn't find any study focusing on undergraduate research-related writing via emergency remote teaching and supervision. So here we aim to explore the BA candidates' attitudes and experiences about writing their BA graduation thesis. But here my supervision, or the other supervision, was via emergency remote teaching. We were interested in their personal view and drove a holistic picture of the situation. We had a total sample of 33 English majoring students, and 18 were female and 15 were male in our department. Department of English Language and Literature. My university is a large-scale public university in the northeastern part of Turkey. And here we collected our, let's say, qualitative data via a questionnaire, a self-devised questionnaire, inspired by the earlier research and the existing literature. We devised a questionnaire, an open-ended questionnaire covering 6 questions, and I will show the questions to you, and we analyze the data utilizing content analysis. We together read the text several times and familiarize ourselves with the content, and then we identify and counted the codes, and then explore the patterns there and interpret the data and reach the conclusion. And here, these questions guided our research. The main question was, what are the students' attitudes towards and experiences about BA thesis writing? So we investigated both their attitudes and experiences. We investigated their problems, their way out, and their ideas about writing their thesis via emergency remote supervision, and their suggestions, recommendations for future supervisions, their suggestion for teachers and faculty staff. And this was our self-devised data gathering instrument. You see, these questions are parallel with our research questions. The first one, did you experience any challenges? Second, how did you overcome these challenges? 3, if you liken distance education to an object, what would it be and why? Here we ask them to write, to find a metaphor, to find out their real thoughts, ideas about such distance remote supervision, and we ask their suggestions. What did we find? Well, I will move theme by theme. The first theme was the difficulties encountered by our students. We divided the sub-themes into 4 as personal problems, academic problems, supervisor-related problems, and technical problems. I listed them from the highest to the lowest. You see that personal problems are the highest one, are the most common one. Although the earlier research showed that academic problems are the most common one, here during the remote supervision and BA thesis writing, personal problems were found the most common one. And here, when you look at the tables, you see that lack of motivation, for example, loss of motivation, lack of concentration, home as an unsuitable atmosphere for study. These were personal problems. When we look at the academic ones, the second category, we see that they had difficulty in finding sources, using sources, and academic writing, time management. When we look at the supervisor-related problems, we see that they have communication breakdown, particularly with their supervisors. They had difficulty in getting help, and the supervision process was problematic. They wait too much for feedback, most probably due to the hectic, busy schedule of the lecturers. And when we look at the technical problems, we see that some had internet access problems, some had lack of technological infrastructure, and some suffer from lack of devices. So these were the difficulties. And I put an representative student excerpt, participant excerpt here. Let's look at what the female participant says. First of all, the first difficulty I have is the problem of focusing. So you see, this is what? This is a personal problem, the highest category, the most frequent problem type. I had difficulty in focusing. Schools have been closed for over a year and education continues online. During this time, I can say that I have been away from school more and more. The online education provided did not contribute much to me, and this took me away from the lessons over time. I had the thought that school was over. In this case, I cannot focus while trying to write a thesis. There are constant disconnections. It takes me 2 or 3 days to write the text that I would normally write in an hour. So the students had difficulty to focus on, and automatically the students' writing performance proficiency decreases. By the way, the grammar mistakes are in the original ones, and I did not change them. The second thing was their solutions, the way out. What did they do to solve this problem? We see that they utilize several strategies, for example, but several confess that they still have difficulty to solve their problems. And some decided to move away far from their family home because it becomes a real torture for them to study with their family members, because they had some family responsibilities, some family clashes, and they didn't have a suitable atmosphere for studying. And still some others decided to study at late hours as a solution. Still some, the autonomous ones tended to search for more information on the internet about how to write a thesis. These were autonomous learners. Some, most of them, you see the number 14 of them, tended to motivate themselves. We see that these students had social emotional learning capacities. They know their emotions and managed to self-regulate their emotions. And some try to set good communication with their supervisors and try to manage the process and solve their problems thanks to their help. Still some other prefer to get social help from their friends, peers, from their family members, relatives, and boyfriends and girlfriends. And this shows that these students' social capacity, social skills are enhanced. The third theme was, we try to investigate their attitudes towards BA thesis writing through emergency remote teaching. In other words, we asked them to provide metaphors about writing a BA thesis via emergency remote supervision. We gave them a sentence that says, writing a thesis via emergency remote supervision is like an object because blah, blah, blah. So our data analysis showed that most of them produce negative metaphors. And this shows that they were negative about writing their BA thesis via emergency remote supervision. Negative ones were cigarette smoking, it's harmful. Moon, having to eat unfavorite food, getting drowned in a small brook, lifeless relation, tight shoes, a car without wheels. Why did they compare it to such objects or actions? Because writing their thesis via emergency remote education first sound nice, but later, the more time passes, the more it turns into a torture for them. And they believe that such kind of supervision could not offer satisfying information and skills to them. And they struggled to write their thesis in remote education, and they felt unhappy, lack of motivation, concentration. And also they have to write, although they feel unmotivated and unhappy. And of course, there were a few positive metaphors like a cactus, a nutcracker, a magnifying glass, a night lamp, because they believe that although it has problems, still it is functional. It compensated education losses and helped them to graduate, because thanks to writing their thesis via emergency remote supervision, they managed to graduate. And although they said that, although it seems scary at first, still it is beneficial. Like cactus, normally you may think that cactus is something negative, but it's quite helpful for the air in your house. There were some in between metaphors, like lifesaver, a usual film, a coffee cup, a matrushka doll, a riding a bicycle, and crossword puzzle. I mean, they highlighted both positive sides like convenience and compensation, education losses, and negative ones like loss of motivation and difficulty to connect to supervisors and difficulty, technical difficulties, and etc. And in theme 4, we identify some recommendation. We ask them to offer us recommendation. I mean, we said that suppose that next year we're gonna use the same format, and what you suggest for students to be successful. They said that they need to be planned and programmed, and students also should find activities, hobbies that will motivate them. This is important because personal problems were the highest or most frequent one, and they need to motivate themselves during the process. They said that topic selection is important. You should choose an engaging one. And also they talk about the importance of choosing a peaceful and quiet studying atmosphere. And also they suggested that students should choose their advisor, supervisor carefully, because supervisors have a great role in the process because they support them both emotionally and academically. And communicating with them regularly is important because to avoid such loss of motivation. And also, they talk about the importance of time management in the process. Some talk about the importance of regular consultation. And two said that you shouldn't work in a part-time job while writing your thesis because it's a kind of rocket science for you, particularly when it is via emergency remote education. And two said that you need to get psychological support because of the challenging nature of writing a thesis via distance education. And also two said that you should get in contact with friends to get emotional help and maybe academic help sometimes. I put a let's say quotation here to show you some of the suggestion. Let me read it. Apart from writing a thesis, I suggest that they should give importance to their mental health, and they should do an activity, sport or artistic pursuits or work time in order to keep their mental health in good condition. In this way, I believe that they will be better in terms of both time management and motivation. This time I took it from a male participant. This shows that as the personal problems were the highest one, mental health is important. And they suggest to have some other activities, hobbies to have a healthy mind. And because if you have a healthy mind, then automatically you could manage your time and your motivation automatically increases. Also, we asked our participants their overall satisfaction with writing their BA thesis via emergency remote teaching, and we asked them to evaluate the process out of 10 with a number out of 10, and the middle point was found 5, which shows somewhere in the middle. I mean, there were happy ones, satisfied ones, and there were unhappy ones, but still this picture is not good. And we could conclude that there is a high level of dissatisfaction with writing their BA thesis via emergency remote supervision. When we come to the discussion and conclusions, let me recap what I have told until now. We found that our participants did not have enthusiasm towards remote learning, particularly due to heavy tasks, heavy thesis writing responsibilities and assignments, and also limited internet infrastructure similar to other researchers. And also we saw that they had difficulty in deciding what to include in their report, as they difficulty in research writing and research conducting, as well as following academic conventions. They have some organizational problems, as the other researchers found. And as I highlighted, we found loss of motivation and engagement, which resulted in low performance and high exhaustion. And we found that they were dissatisfied due to these problems, personal, technological, supervisor-related, and academic problems. Here, I guess, as a supervisor, and also my supervisee Merve Ayna also agrees with me, I could offer some suggestions to students and teachers, supervisors here. I guess writing a BA thesis during emergency remote supervision is not easy. And here, there are heavy responsibilities on the shoulders of the students, of the BA candidates. So here, they should know how to self-regulate their emotions and guide the process, and know when to get help, where to get help from, how to manage crisis. In other words, they should turn into autonomous learners and learners with good social emotional capacities. Here, strategy training could help. I mean, maybe this could be done in earlier years, maybe in third grade, because in third grade they are supposed to get a research class in our case, and there we need to teach them, we need to equip them with researching and writing strategies. And also we found that they have difficulty in academic writing well and reading the existing literature critically. So here we need to teach them how to read research articles and how to cite, how to write. So we need to offer practice chance to our students. They need to practice academic writing. But here in Turkey, until they come to university, they do not have writing experience even in their L1 in Turkish, let alone English. So when they come to university, writing becomes a real torture for our students. So such practice should be given frequently to our students. Such chances should be given to them. And also, we need to have close connection with our supervisor. And I guess we shouldn't forget that we are their supervisors and we should supervise them both academically and emotionally. They really need it because it's really easy to fall behind and I don't know, get lost easily. And this becomes really serious via emergency remote education. Also, the situation, well, the pandemic complicates the matter even further. And here I really agree with Bao's suggestion. Bao says that high impact teaching practice should be realized. What is that? You need to break teaching content into manageable parts, I mean modules, to help the students keep engaged in remote learning. And also you have to offer technical support and of course to both students and teaching staff. And also you should combine offline and online learning. I mean, now we offer supervision via emergency remote education, but this doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything offline. Here, offline self-learning to read the course material, write short papers, and online learning to exchange ideas through discussion boards. Yeah, we could do that also to help them in the process. We would like to thank you for listening to us and happy to present the results of our BA, our research focusing on the BA students' research writing experiences and attitudes. Thank you. And these are our references. The reference that we use, and these are the image credits, the pictures that we use. Thank you.